All right, let's talk about something that every single one of us does, but pretty much nobody wants to actually talk about. Yep, today we are diving deep into the world of farts. We're going to break down the science behind this totally natural process, what causes it, where it comes from, and, believe it or not, what it might be trying to tell you about your health. Look, let's just get it out of the way. Can it be mortifying? Sometimes, for sure. But is it normal? 100%. Absolutely. Passing gas is just a completely normal and actually necessary sign that your digestive system is doing its job. So while it might feel a little awkward, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
And just how normal are we talking? Well, get this. The average person passes gas about 14 times a day. But really, the healthy range is pretty wide. Anywhere from 8 to 25 times is considered totally typical. So if you feel like it's happening a lot, chances are you're perfectly fine.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's get the official lingo down. The proper term is flatulence. It's just the medical name for releasing intestinal gas, also known as flatus. At the end of the day, it's simply a natural byproduct of digestion.
So, where does all this gas actually come from? Let's take a little tour inside our body's own internal gas factory to see how the whole operation works.
Well, it really comes from two main sources. About a quarter of it is just air that we swallow when we're eating, drinking, or even chewing gum. But the vast majority, a full 75%, is actually made right inside our gut. This is where the trillions of bacteria in our large intestine get to work, breaking down and fermenting food that our body couldn't fully digest.
Now, let's look at what this gas is actually made of, because this part is genuinely surprising. The vast majority is nitrogen and hydrogen, plus some carbon dioxide and methane. You know what all that means? It means that over 99% of the gas we pass is completely and totally odorless.
So if 99% of it has no smell, where does that infamous odor come from? Well, that is the less than 1% problem. It all comes down to a tiny fraction containing sulfur compounds, especially hydrogen sulfide. That's the stuff that smells like rotten eggs, and our noses are so incredibly sensitive to it that even a tiny amount is, very noticeable.
Okay, now that we know how the gas is made, let's talk about what's fueling the factory. It's time to move on and meet the usual suspects, the foods that are most famous for causing gas.
And here they are, the classic lineup. We're talking about things like beans and legumes, dairy, whole grains, and of course, those cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cabbage. Onions, garlic, certain fruits, they're all on the list. The common thread here is that they all contain certain complex sugars and fibers that our bodies find really difficult to break down on their own. Let's get even more specific. For beans and cabbage, the culprit is a sugar called raffinose. With dairy, it's lactose, and many people just don't produce enough of the enzyme needed to digest it. Onions have fructans, and those sugar-free candies often use something called sorbitol. You see the pattern? All of these things make it to our large intestine mostly undigested, where they become an all-you-can-eat buffet for our gas-producing gut bacteria. But here is a fascinating twist. A 2021 study found that people on a vegan diet, which is usually super high in fiber and plants, farted about 7 times more than non-vegans. But far from being a problem, the researchers said this was actually a sign of a really healthy, well-fed gut microbiome. So more gas isn't necessarily a bad thing. This brings us to a universal social dilemma. You're in a quiet office, a crowded elevator, on a first date, and you feel that familiar pressure building. What do you do? Let's explore the age-old question, to hold or not to hold. So here it is, the big question. We've all been there, we've all wondered, is holding it in actually bad for you?
Well, the verdict from health experts is pretty clear. Holding it in occasionally isn't going to cause any major harm, but making a habit of it is a really bad idea. It increases all this pressure in your digestive system, and that can lead to pain, bloating, and just feeling awful. Over time, it's even a risk factor for conditions like diverticulosis. On the other hand, letting it go, well, that's just your body doing what it's supposed to do.
So what actually happens to the gas when you hold it in? It doesn't just vanish. A small amount can get reabsorbed into your bloodstream and, get this, eventually get breathed out. But the majority of it just waits. It hangs out in your gut, building up pressure until you finally find a safe moment to release it. All right, for our final section, we're going to look at flatulence in a whole new light, as a free, built-in diagnostic tool. That's right, your gas can actually give you some pretty valuable clues about what's going on with your gut health. So, what should you be paying attention to? Well, first, listen to the frequency.
If you're consistently going more than 25 times a day, it could be a sign of a food intolerance or something like IBS. Second, note the odor. If things are unusually foul all the time, that might point to an imbalance in your gut bacteria. And third, and this is the most important one, pay attention to pain. Gas is normal. Gas that comes with significant pain or cramping is not.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. While farts are almost always normal, sometimes they can be a symptom of a bigger issue. If your gas comes along with any of these other things, like persistent bloating, bad abdominal pain, major changes in your bowel habits, unexplained weight loss, or blood in your stool, it is definitely time to go have a chat with your doctor.
So instead of being a source of embarrassment, maybe we can reframe this whole thing as a direct line of communication from your gut. It's like a little message from the trillions of microbes working away inside you. So the next time it happens, maybe just take a moment and wonder, what story is your gut trying to tell you?